And so, Deputy Garza, we spoke earlier about the specific location where you're at, and I think you said it was Specht Road, so showing you 318. Did you document the specific address of the location?
Yes, I photographed the fence post in which displayed the numerical address of that location that we found the human remains.
And so what are we looking at in State's Exhibit 330? Do you know who's holding the bones depicted in State's Exhibit 330?
I believe that is the medical examiner, if I'm not mistaken. And right there, she's holding partial of a jaw with teeth.
Object to lack of foundation, 702.
Okay, so roll.
And I guess, what are y'all doing? Because I know you just said in the crime scene video y'all hadn't disturbed anything, but now it appears as if you are collecting certain items and looking at them more closely. What's your process?
So at this point, when the medical examiner investigator arrives at location, they begin to conduct their investigation as to collecting human remains or whatnot. So I'm there just to aid and assist. I'm not grabbing, touching anything. I'm merely just documenting, and the way I'm documenting is photographing. So as they collect items of evidentiary value, as you would see the human remains, as they're picking it up, they photograph their sequence, and then I photograph my sequence.
And so looking at State's Exhibit 336, what's significant about why you chose to take that photograph?
So there you'll see an article.
Again, going to object to lack of foundation, 702. 705B, if we're going to ask him what he's identifying out of these remains or the things he's seeing, I'd like to test his qualification for what he knows about it.
I think the question just was like why you chose to take this picture.
I chose to take this picture because from what I see, again, I'm no expert. From what I see is what appears to be an artificial nail. That's why I photographed that. It was brought to our attention.
So then looking at State's Exhibit 338, and I guess has the sorting process been done, and that's just what you're documenting here?
That is correct. The medical exam.
I'm objecting to leave.
Okay, first question is the same.
And so what process and procedure are you documenting here in State's Exhibit 338?
So at this time, the medical examiner placed what we believe to be the human remains on the top of this table. They organized it as they see fit.
I'm going to object. There's a hearsay issue there of lack of personal knowledge. He's attested that he's not an expert. The medical examiner would be the one making this determination. And we're vouching for the medical examiner's determination through this witness, which creates a hearsay confrontation problem.
Okay. What specifically your objection to what?
The witness's testimony, it included the use of we in explaining the process that is being undergone and documented in this photograph. He has attested that he doesn't have the expertise to do this. It's sustained, Your Honor?
Yes.
I would ask that the jury disregard the
Jury
answer.
will disregard the last answer.
And so looking at State's Exhibit 344, just same process, somebody holding it up and you're documenting what's been found there.
Correct. I'm photographing what was located.
And do you remember specifically where what's depicted in State's 344 was located in relation to the area, I guess, was it out in the open or was it undercover? Do you remember?
I do not recall, ma'am. I'm sorry.
So as far as July 12th with regard to the Specht Road location, did that kind of end your duties and responsibilities with regard to that crime scene?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll take your attention over to July 13th of 2019. Did you get dispatched to assist at an address of 3306 Coral Grove in reference to the defendant, Mr. Andreen McDonald?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were you tasked to do when you got to the location?
To photograph and collect items of evidentiary value.
And did you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you photograph?
I photographed the arrestee and evidence that I collected, which was a cell phone.
May I approach on?
Yes.
Showing you states 348, 349, 350, 351, and 352. Would you please look at those and see if you recognize them?
Yes, ma'am.
And so the state's exhibits 348 through 352 accurately depict the photographs you took that day on July 13th of 2019 of the defendant, Mr. McDonald, and the cell phone.
Yes, ma'am.
State moves to admit 341 to 352.
Lauren, you said 341 is 348.
Correct.
Say
348.
348. It's my eyes.
May I have a brief without the witness?
Fine.
Good morning, Deputy. How are you?
Good.
Calling your attention specifically to what's been offered as states 350 through 352. Did you assist in the arrest of Mr. McDonald that day at all?
As in placing handcuffs on him?
Or did you observe that process being carried out?
No, sir.
Okay, you arrived after he had already been arrested.
That is correct.
Okay, do you know where that phone was found?
No, I do not.
You don't know whether it was on his person or whether it was in his car or whether it was in the...
No, sir. I cannot attest to that.
Okay. Your Honor, we would object to 350 through 352 until a more of a foundation can be laid as to how it came into their possession. We have no objection to 348 or 349.
Objection to either admitted.
Can you approach the witness again?
Yes.
And then now I'm showing you Deputy Garza, State's Exhibit 353. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 353?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you recognize it?
The evidence I collected with the markations of my initials and the evidence sequential order.
Okay. And so what unique identifier did you give this piece of evidence?
EFG E1.
And then what is it specifically?
A cell phone?
And is that same cell phone that we saw in the picture of State's Exhibit 352?
Correct.
Okay. Would you mind opening up the envelope and confirming that it's... And then just to be clear, you didn't perform any searches or any sort of that function on the cell phone. Your sole job was just to collect it and put it into the property room.
That is correct.
And did you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
And then where did you find that cell phone today? Where did you get the cell phone?
Oh, I'm sorry. From the property room, I removed it from the property room through the process of the property room clerk, signed it out, and brought it to court.
Now, Deputy Garza, I'm going to direct your attention to March 25th of 2021, where you requested to do anything else with regard to the cell phone that we just marked as State's Exhibit 353.
Yes, an evidence request form was sent by, I believe, Investigator Garcia to photograph the evidence in a more secure area, which would be our property room, our crime scene bay, just post-production type photographs.
And so when you documented the cell phone, did you make note of the unique identifier for the cell phone, otherwise known as the IMEI number?
I believe so, and that's the identification number for the cell phone, kind of like a serial number.
And do you know what that number was?
Off the top of my head, no, ma'am.
Would a copy of your report help refresh your recollection as to the IMEI number of the cell phone you collected?
Yes, ma'am.
May I approach the witness?
Yes.
And just use that to refresh your memory. Is it a short number or a long number, Deputy Garza?
It's a long number.
Do you know the last four?
9444.
And then where do you actually find and locate that number on the cell phone?
It's various places, but I believe on this cell phone it was in the back, the bottom, if I'm not mistaken.
Pass the witness room.
Defense.
Good morning again.
Good morning, sir.
The property out on Speck Road, you said it was 50 acres,
Approximately.
and out in July, middle of the growing season, it was fairly green and overgrown, right?
Correct.
You had not been out there in any previous time to examine what the property looks like in winter or early spring, right?
No, sir, myself, no.
Okay. But fair to say, probably less vegetation than what you saw in July.
I would say yes.
I noticed in the video that you focus on the area where the remains were found, and then you turn back and start walking east towards the gate, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's a pretty good click to get over to the gate from where the remains were found, correct?
Yes, sir.
But all of that time, you're walking basically parallel to Speck Road.
Correct.
And there's a barbed wire fence that's running that whole length up to the gate at the far east corner that you stopped the video at, right?
If I remember correctly, yes, sir.
Did you document that barbed wire fence at all?
Through pictures, photographs.
Video, just personal observation? Did you take time to look at the fence or its condition?
So I do a proper protocol of photography. I do a complete 360 of the area, so it should be included in my photographs.
Okay, but you didn't do anything up close that you were aware of?
No, sir.
Okay. Are you aware that the barbed wire along that fence is very loose and not very taut? You could pull it apart like that.
Could you repeat that question from the beginning, please?
Are you aware that that wire on that fence line facing Speck Road is very loose and wobbly? It's not pulled together tight like it's supposed to be?
No, I was not made aware of that.
Okay. And you didn't observe it then?
No, sir.
Okay. Did anyone ask you to look and see if you could find, torn up trash bag or an article of clothing or a piece of skin or anything on the barbed wire?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, where the remains are found is where the fence along Speck Road and another fence meet to form a right angle, correct?
So you're speaking of the fence line off of Speck Road and the adjacent property fence?
Yes, sir. You know what I'm talking about? That basically the remains were close to a property fence, right?
Yes, that is correct.
That would have started at Speck Road and moved south along the property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's where the majority of the acreage is. You walk that fence going back, you just keep going and going. It's a lot of acres back there.
Yes, that's correct.
You didn't go out and document any of that part of the property, though, with your video camera, right?
No, sir, because I was not requested of that.
Okay. Were you aware that there are other cow remains further down that fence line from where Andreen's remains were found?
Further down from the area of interest?
Correct.
No, but there was animal remains in the vicinity of where the human remains were located.
Right. You found some cow bones mixed in with human bones, right?
Animal bones. I'm not too sure what type of animal bones they were, but yes, animal bones.
Okay. Now, out of that kind of property in Bexar County, you'd expect to see lots of different kinds of animals, right?
That's fair to say, yes.
You might see coyotes, raccoons, you might see cattle, that
Sure.
kind of thing. Did you look for any evidence or sign of those animals having been in the area recently?
No.
Okay. Along that fence line that we're talking about that runs from Speck Road back to the back of the property, there's a lot of heavier, denser vegetation along that fence line, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, the further back you go, it looks on your video, there are bigger trees, things like that further back, correct?
An unkept field, yes.
Okay. Especially along the fence line compared to the rest of the field.
Yes, sir.
The rest of the field is kind of pasture, grazing land.
Correct.
But up in this part, it's brushy and thorny and all kinds of stuff.
Yes, sir.
Okay. From where you found the remains, looking back on Speck Road, if you're standing there, it would be visible, even with all that brush from the roadway, right?
Are you talking about the human remains and being visible?
No, you as a person standing there in that location, somebody from the roadway wouldn't have trouble seeing you, you would think, right?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay, but I mean, you think that you'd be completely obscured?
Me, if I was standing there and if somebody were to be looking at me from Speck Road, if I would be obscured? No.
Okay. And just to go back a little bit, moving forward to the arrest of Mr. McDonald, when you photographed the phone, where was the phone?
On top of a vehicle.
On top of the vehicle.
Correct.
Okay, but you don't know how it got there.
No, sir.
I'll pass the witness.
Yes, thank
Nothing else, Ron.
you. Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Counsel.